Hi, I'm James Schilling-Law, and I'm here with James Thornton, CEO of Intrepid Travel. Now, Intrepid Travel, which is based in Melbourne, but it's one of the largest, if not the largest, adventure travel operators in the world. And they have lots of programs, and they are really marketing heavily in the United States. And they actually have a new program we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk about that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, first of all, James, how are you and where are you?
Hi, James. Great to be here today. I'm in Melbourne, early in the morning here. I'm okay. I'm sure I'm like many travel leaders in the industry at the moment. Bit frustrated, bit disappointed with the last few months and what's happened to business, but also trying to be optimistic and look forward to the future and also be thankful for that which we all still have. So looking forward to hopefully one day being able to get out on the road and traveling again.
We all are, and believe me, and I have nothing on my schedule now. I had something briefly, and it was just canceled. So you never know. Now,
That's it. It's going to be a fluid world.
I know. That's the thing. Everything changes. Now, we hear Australia has been a little more successful than most, than many other countries in containing the virus, though it seems to have meant you've closed off your borders, which probably was a good idea. Any idea when we can get back to visiting Australia and when Australians can start traveling again?
That's the answer on everyone's lips down here, James. The government pursued a strategy of shutting the border in March, and it worked very successfully in Australia right up until the middle of June. Sadly, hotel quarantine failed a bit in the last month here in Melbourne, and the virus has returned, and we're back in full lockdown in Melbourne, whereas in other parts of Australia, in Brisbane and Perth, life has very much returned to normal. The Australian government seems to be looking to more suppression or maybe even elimination strategy, and so as a result, I suspect our borders will be remaining shut for the foreseeable future, probably into the middle of 2021, and then progressively we'll start to open up with other countries who've managed the pandemic in a similar way. So probably New Zealand, bubbles with certain Asian countries. So it's going to be a while, unfortunately, which is pretty frustrating when you're trying to run a successful international travel company.
Now, have you been running any programs around the world at this point?
So at this point, we haven't, no, James. We suspended global operations on the 14th of March with a view that we wouldn't operate trips before the 30th of September. We're starting to see some appetite for travel within Europe at the moment, which is really encouraging. So British travellers, European travellers into some of our British and European destinations, particularly our Data Urban Adventures programs and our new Intrepid Local Retreats program. So we should be operating some trips in August and September. And then we'll be doing a progressive opening up from October onwards where it's safe and secure to be able to do.
Now, well, yeah, Europe, they're starting to travel again, absolutely, within there. And I was remiss, I should have let you have a chance to just tell us a little bit about Intrepid Travel and what it offers for those travel advisors who may not be as familiar with it.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, you did a great intro for us, but Intrepid's one of the leading global adventure travel companies. We've been taking travellers off the beaten track on small group adventure trips to discover the world's most amazing places over the past 31 years. We're very much a leader in responsible travel. We've been a carbon neutral business since 2010, and we became a certified B Corp in 2018. Every Intrepid trip is truly kind of experiential. We want you to meet the local people, to try the local food, use the local transport, stay in different types of accommodation. And we offer tours for all tastes and budgets, including family trips and activity trips and food trips and small shipping cruising and the like. So, yeah, over 2,000 trips around the world.
No, that's wonderful. And in fact, you lead me to my next question because, Intrepid Travel has been a leader in sustainable travel and your carbon offset or carbon neutral program. And literally one of the big news most recently, given that we all can't travel, is that you actually have introduced a new program that's designed surprisingly for other travel companies, I suppose even tour operators like yourself, and it aims to help them become carbon neutral, just like your company. Why are you offering this and why now during this epidemic, this pandemic?
For sure. I mean, the resource is called, what we're calling it's a 10-step quick start guide to decarbonize your travel business. And it's available for free download from the Intrepid Travel website on our carbon management page. That's intrepidtravel.com/carbon management. It was written by our own environmental impact specialist, Dr. Suzanne Etty. And the quick start guide provides a low barrier for other travel companies to get started on their carbon journey by offering straightforward steps from understanding how climate change is impacting your business to developing a carbon management strategy and using real-world examples from Intrepid to hopefully show others how you can implement similar strategies within their own organisations. Why have we done it? Look, I think we recognise that every single travel company is facing its own challenges right now, and we need to make sure that when we're able to travel again, that we rebuild more responsibly. And taking actions against climate change and managing our carbon emissions is critically important to do that.
Well, it must be tough at this point to get anybody to focus on, sustainable travel given the coronavirus pandemic. How do you think this program will fare? Have you had any inquiries already? We did a quick item on it the other day, but I don't know if you already had some interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we understand every business has got its own individual challenges and priorities right now, as you say, James, particularly during a time that is just so completely unprecedented. But we hope that companies within the travel industry will understand the severity of the situation. That we are in a climate crisis, and it is the responsibility and obligation of businesses in the travel sector and beyond to try and make real impactful change. And I keep using this analogy that, at the moment, coronavirus has very much stopped the world, hasn't it? We've kind of been locked in our homes for weeks and months at a time, and it's because it places a direct impact on our own individual health right here, right now. It can be a killer disease, as we've seen with over 500,000 deaths around the world. And climate change is similar. It's just that climate change is going to happen in 30 or 40 years. And by the time climate change hits us and really hits us immediately, there will be no vaccine. And, we're talking about a vaccine now as the potential cure to be able to travel and open up the world again. Well, there is no vaccine for climate change. And that's why Intrepid Travel feels so strongly around providing these resources to help the travel industry rebuild more responsibly.
No, then that's great. And we do have to regain our focus on sustainable travel when it merges and right now, and maybe as part of it, as you have done. My question was going to be how you've already talked a little bit about it, how Intrepid has worked through this crisis. How do you envision reopening up for business? And I mean, are you going to, as we mentioned before, maybe we'll have trips that are more regional in nature for a regional clientele? How do you think this is going to work?
So I suppose what we're trying to do, to start with, James, is two important focuses. One is focused around safety, and the second one is focused around flexibility of booking. So we recognise they're going to be two key components for a traveller. That is, it safe to go to a destination, and will they be safe in a destination? And then secondly, giving them the flexibility to have flexible booking conditions so they can change their plans as situations evolve. And that's really been our kind of key focus for us. We've adopted the WTTC's safety stamp, and we've got a new flexible bookings policy too. I think, with the majority of international borders still closed, we've been shifting our focus recently to trying to develop product that's a bit closer to home, right? Because we recognise that's probably how travel will emerge first and foremost. We've been locked up at home. So firstly, being able to travel maybe interstate, domestically. And so Intrepid's been developing a new range of close to home trips, which are curated by locals for locals and tailored to each country's individual restrictions. And so we've got 75 multi-day tours in Australia and New Zealand and in Europe, with plans to expand into North America over the coming months. We're also relaunching the day tours, which I mentioned earlier, Intrepid Urban Adventures in select North American cities later this summer too. All of those with the enhanced safety guidelines. So that's how we feel will start to re-emerge. Yeah,
well, the open city, the city tours sound like a good idea. One of the challenges, here in the States, everybody thought domestic travel would be the one to come back first, and everybody started planning their summer vacations. We forgot that there are actually now quarantines that states put on other states. And, in fact, in my own state here in New York, we now have 35 states that you can't go to or come back from, nor will we take their citizens without a 14-day quarantine. That puts a little bit of a damper and a hamper on the whole domestic travel. We can certainly travel within our own state and maybe some adjoining states. But let's say I can't go to Florida, that's for sure, because there's equal quarantines from both sides, which is kind of maddening. And then out west, there are certain states that are probably still off limits because we are unfortunately seeing much more of a surge than you might even be seeing in Melbourne, especially down in the southern states. But that's the challenge. But I do like the idea of having these local, more domestic trips that we can take here in the States when you introduce them here in America.
I think we're just going to see those policies emerge, aren't we, James? I think we see the restrictions kind of change from kind of month to month and almost week to week sometimes, in terms of restrictions.
Day to day.
Exactly.
I can turn on the TV right
just
now.
Just got to try and be agile and be patient, haven't we?
I can get another 5 states that Governor Cuomo from New York has just announced. Who knows? But that's the problem. Now, let's talk a little more big picture here. I mean, how do you think adventure travel is positioned as we kind of hopefully emerge from this crisis? Do you believe there'll be even higher demand for adventure travel because it's outdoors and natural surroundings, and people maybe feel a little better about that kind of situation than being, in a resort or on a ship or something?
Yeah, look, I think, James, with most people spending a really big portion of 2020 indoors, travellers, who may have previously opted for urban settings may now want to get out into the wilderness and stay active with tours centred around things like trekking or cycling or mindfulness. And the spike in demand that we're seeing for destinations like Antarctica and the Galapagos indicate a desire for people to travel to remote places where I guess people can hopefully reconnect with the natural world while also checking off amazing bucket list type experiences. I think we also believe that tour operators are well poised in the post-COVID world too. When the coronavirus escalated in March, travellers across the world scrambled to get home safely, and Intrepid's global network of local destination management companies and local suppliers affords us the unique position to be able to help our travellers on the ground when they need it most. So, travel restrictions kind of going to rapidly evolve, and so customers will want to ensure that when they're travelling, they're doing so with companies who have really solid relationships in local communities on the ground. So, yeah, I think we've all been stuck at home for too long, and I think people are going to want to get out and get out into the wilderness and get some fresh air. So I think tour operations and adventure travel companies will be very well placed to be able to maximise that.
Yeah, and I believe you're correct. I think you're in a sector of the business that I think will see a surge. Hopefully, although I hate using the word surge because that's become associated with the virus. But by next year, we will hopefully see some movement for more people booking adventure travel and more people booking for Intrepid. Now, is there anything else you want to get out to our 100,000 Travel Advisor viewers about Intrepid, the new program, and basically travel in general today during the crisis?
Yeah, look, I think we just want to say thank you very much for everyone's support, James. It is the most unprecedented, challenging time for absolutely everyone in the travel industry right now. Many of us are surviving off government benefits, and we're all doing it super tough. And we really, as much as possible, need to stick together. And so Intrepid can continue to support you in any which way that we can. And I would just, I know you mentioned earlier that the responsible travel might not have been as much of a key focus as we're trying to rebuild, but just really highlighting the importance that the travel industry shouldn't necessarily just be aspiring for things to go back to normal following the pandemic, but rather working together to redefine what normal means and using this rare chance that we have in lockdown to envisage a world that promotes more ethical and sustainable travel for everyone as we head into the future. So I just really kind of highlight and encourage that this opportunity to try and reimagine and think along those lines.
Well, we have fixed that over-tourism thing, at least temporarily, right?
We sure have.
Now you can go almost anywhere in the world and you'll be on your own. But that's anyway, right. James, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about what Intrepid Travel is doing today, the new program, and really the future for adventure travel. I'm sorry that you've had this little bit of a regression there in Melbourne. We're quite familiar with that kind of thing here in the States, believe me, and we're experiencing it in many states, sadly. But it's great to see you again, and hopefully next year, if not before, we will get together at some place in the travel industry somewhere. If they ever hold another travel conference again, I think they will. It certainly will be great. We are all kind of chomping at the bit to get back on a plane and meet all our friends and in the industry. Again, thank you so much.
Thanks, James.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.